On a hot summer Texas morning, a couple walked into a model home in search of a forever home. But what they found would change them forever. After following a blood trail leading to the kitchen, they stumbled across the body of the saleswoman they came there to meet, Sarah Walker. Sarah had been stabbed over 25 times and nearly every piece of furniture was in disarray, giving the impression that Sarah fought valiantly for her life. A 40-year-old mother of two and recently divorced, Sarah was a very successful real estate agent. After doing some recon near the scene, police found surveillance footage of Sarah not long before her murder at the local bank. In the video, she was wearing what seemed to be a very pricey ring and watch, but these items were not found on her person or at the scene. Police also learned from her family that she abruptly ended a phone call because a client had just arrived, leading them to believe that the killer gained access to Sarah under the guise of being interested in a home. Just a half hour later, Sarah was dead. As investigators searched the scene for evidence, they would quickly discover that she was killed in a horrific struggle. But through a deeper investigation, there was blood evidence showing that the killer had been injured as well. The blood provided police with the killer's DNA profile, but at the autopsy, the medical examiner found something extremely rare and unusual. During the struggle, it appeared the killer bit Sarah on the neck, leaving a bite mark, which would in turn become one of the star pieces of evidence in the case. As usual, the police took a look at the first possible suspect, Sarah's recent husband, Randy Tate. Randy gave an alibi that he had been golfing with friends, and when he gave his DNA, it wasn't a match. By this time, a few weeks had passed, and the trail of Sarah's killer had started to go cold. Then the husband of another realtor came forward with some new shocking information. He said that on the morning of Sarah's murder, his wife got a call from a man who identified himself as Chan Lee to take a look at a model home which was directly across the street from the one Sarah was due to be showing that same morning. His wife had her suspicions, so she asked him to come along that day, in which he agreed. When they got to the model home, an Asian male drove up in a white Mustang and walked up towards the house. When Nelson asked, "Excuse me, is your name Chan Lee?" the Asian man acted as if he did not hear Nelson, walked back to his car and drove away. While waiting for the appointment, Nelson and his wife saw Sarah enter the model home across the street. When they realized the appointment was a no-show, they walked out the model home only to see the same white Mustang parked next to Sarah's car. They left at 1 p.m. and Sarah's body was found approximately 20 minutes later. Nelson would be the police's #1 eyewitness, but he would undergo forensic hypnosis to try to remember more details. He then helped them with creating a composite sketch which was released to the media and immediately produced results. Another realtor in the area said she had rented to him, and he then returned to her home trying to gain entry under the guise of needing to make a phone call. When she refused, he became very irate and started to bang on her door. She called police, and when they arrived, they took into custody a 25-year-old Kosul Chanthakuman. A background check showed he drove a white Mustang and had a history of violence. He spent time in juvenile detention for beating a classmate very severely. And at the time of Sarah's murder, he was on parole for kidnapping and robbing two elderly women in North Carolina. Kosul's left hand was covered in recently healed scars, and investigators took photographs of his teeth to make a mold to try to find a match to the bite mark on Sarah's neck. After being compared to images of the bite mark, there was what seemed to be a match, and to top that off, the blood DNA at the scene matched Kosul's DNA. On that day, the evidence shows that he called his first target, but she sensed trouble, brought her husband, and that scared him away. After not giving up, he returned in time to see Sarah Walker arrive at the model home across the street. It is believed he went inside and tried to rob Sarah. There was a fight in which he bit her. While trying to subdue her, he stabbed her over 25 times, injuring himself in the process. He then fled the model home, leaving his DNA behind. In October of 2006, Kosul was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death.
Today, the man convicted of killing a McKinney real estate agent is scheduled for execution. Sarah Walker was found stabbed to death in a model home 16 years ago. 2 years later, a jury found Kosul Chantakuman guilty of killing her. He has maintained his innocence, and supporters say the forensic evidence used to convict him was flawed, among other issues that should be reconsidered.
My name is Kosul Chantakuman. In 2006, I was arrested and charged with capital murder and the death of Sarah Ann Walker, a realtor in McKinney, Texas. A year later, I would be found guilty and sentenced to death. A court-appointed trial attorneys assured me they would defend me during the culpability phase of the trial, yet they would backtrack on their word and against my wish not defend me at all. In anticipation of the prosecution's plan to use multiple forensic junk signs, no effort was made to challenge nor rebut any of the state's witnesses. As a result of their failures, what the state has alleged and theorized has since become the accepted narrative of this case against me, however false it may be. I was failed by my court-appointed trial attorney and by the court's sentence. From day one, I've long maintained my innocence, even as my post-conviction appeals have all been denied for one reason or other. It seems like there are no real changes on the horizon to protect those who are innocent, yet were found guilty through no fault of their own. Even as the evidence used to convict me, mixed DNA, bite mark evidence, and forensic hypnosis are deeply flawed. The totality of these junk science evidence are what the state relied on to wrongfully convict me, in which I now face the prospect of being executed for. When false testimony has proven to be essentially a lie, how can the questionable evidence associated with it be trusted? At a minimum, you would want for a new trial to correct the original errors, but to allow it to stand is a miscarriage of justice, one that continues today. The district attorney would have you believe otherwise, but they've since been proven wrong. I humbly ask you to use your conscience to guide your voice in an effort to support me as I make my final attempt to obtain justice, not just for myself, but for Ms. Walker as well. I greatly appreciate your time and listening to my recorded message and any vote of your confidence in me. I cannot express remorse for a crime in which I did not commit. All I can do is continue to hope that the person responsible will be brought to justice. There is a safety valve to prevent a miscarriage of justice from occurring, and that the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals can step in at any moment and take another look at my case, or that the Texas Board of Pardons and Parole will grant my clemency request. I am grateful to all who have signed my petition and have supported death penalty action to assist me. My heart has always went out to Sarah Ann Walker and her family. I pray for them each day and will continue to do so for as long as life is in me. That I am who they think is responsible for her death is a burden that has weighed upon my heart 16 years now, and it has affected me tremendously deeply. And so I will conclude this message with a plea for divine mercy. I pray that God have mercy on us all, and that He will help you, guide you in your decision as far as helping me. Thank you, and God bless you all.
On August 17, 2022, Kosul was executed by lethal injection by the state of Texas. Upon being strapped to the gurney, he was given a chance for a last statement. His words were, "I would like to thank my Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I would like to thank all these people in my life and that aided me in this journey. I would also like to thank the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Inmate Field Minister Program True Foster and Garcia for aiding me in my journey. To Ms. Walker's family, I pray my death will bring you peace." This has been the story of Sarah Walker. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to stay informed.